In today's episode of the Knitting Podcast, I'm getting you up to speed on my current works in progress, as well as answering some of the questions from a few previous videos. So if that sounds like just your cup of tea, get cozy and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Tayler, and I will be your host. Today's episode is a knitting update episode where I share with you what I am currently working on and if I have anything finished, which I don't. So no finished objects today, but I do have some really cozy works in progress that I want to share with you guys. And I want to answer some questions towards the end of the episode that popped up in a couple previous episodes. And I think that the answers to these questions will provide some really interesting information and just make for some really good additional cozy knitting content. Before we get started, I want to mention that I am drinking. I haven't mentioned what I'm drinking in a while, but this is delicious. I just took a sip of it. It's by Rishi. It is peach hibiscus tea, and it is so good. This tea company, I've had their tea like once or twice before. I picked this up at Whole Foods. It's really, really good. It has the tea bags that have all the whole like bits of tea in them. Oh, it's so good. And yeah, I'm going to leave that tea bag in there just until I'm done because I really like really strong herbal tea. So that is what I'm drinking and it is exceptional. I'm loving it. Okay, I want to get into what I'm working on, but I want to take a quick moment to mention something. Those of you that have been following the Wool Needles Hands podcast for a while know that I am the owner and dyer of Fiber for the People yarn. It is my business. It is my hand-dyed yarn company that I run by myself as a solo entrepreneur from my home studio. And this Saturday, I am going to be featuring an update collection of kits for or inspired by my Flea sweater. So I'm going to be talking about my Flea sweater later on in the episode, but this is what's inspiring this Saturday's update. I will be selling kits of 8 colorways per kit for those of you that want to knit a Flea sweater in almost the same color scheme. If you want to see an idea of what it is I'm going for here, check out my Instagram. I have the colorways laid out there, but also be sure to sign up for the Fiber for the People newsletter so you can stay in the loop about all things Fiber for the People. And while you're at it, you can also sign up for the Wool Needles Hands newsletter. All of the links are down below in the description box, so you can receive my quarterly newsletter of all things knitting for Wool Needles Hands here, the channel, and all the things that I'm doing behind the scenes of the podcast, so definitely check that out. Whew, it's warm in here today. Okay, let's get right into it. I'm ready to go. Now, I have been talking a lot about my Flea sweater. You see it behind me. It's right there. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but I want to share with you something that I'm really excited about that I mentioned briefly on the last episode of the podcast because I shared with you some bulky yarn, super bulky yarn that I had and how I wanted to turn it into something like a blanket. And you guys, I have done just that. And I have it right back here in this market basket. This is an African market basket. It's one of my favorite ways to store larger knitting projects like a blanket. I love it. I will link to some really nice options that you can find on Amazon if you're interested, but this is mine. And it is housing my Mexican blanket by 2 of Wands, which is, I'm just right now, it's like I could have told you this 2 minutes ago, but now that I have to say this on the camera, I'm at a loss. Who's Alexandra Tavel, thank you, who is 2 of Wands. This is a lovely pattern. I cannot wait to share this with you. Okay, so on the last episode, I was sharing, patience. I was sharing just the yarn, which you can see here. And this is yarn that I purchased like a year and a half ago from Joanne. This is what the yarn's packaging used to look like. But since the packaging has changed, I can't actually remember. You know, I might have, hold on. Okay, I have this. So this is what it looks like now. It's knit and crochet KNC, and it is 80% acrylic, 20% alpaca, and I got this at Joanne. Now, it is all currently on clearance. Joanne is in the process of filing bankruptcy or something like that, and they're closing a bunch of stores and clearancing off a lot of their merchandise. I don't know if they're going completely under, but I do know that if you're interested in this yarn, you can purchase it right now, clearance, and it's really inexpensive. I'll see if I can link to it down below. It's kind of hard. I can just link to the Joanne link down below, I guess. But these are the yarns I'm using for my blanket because I had them in stock and I always knew I wanted to knit a blanket with these. I was just waiting for the pattern to come around. Now, On Patreon, I did a video where we kind of went window shopping for blanket patterns for this yarn, and I found this one. This is called the Mexican Blanket. It came out, I want to say, in 2017, and it's just a really fantastic Southwestern Mexican inspired blanket with that really gorgeous motif, and the color, the sample is relatively muted in terms of color. So I wanted to punch up the color to really kind of, get that whole Southwest vibe across, if you will. And so I'm so excited about it. So I started knitting my blanket. And as soon as I started knitting the blanket down here towards the bottom, I'm intentionally just showing you this bottom portion here. I started working this up and realizing that the colors, though they are pretty, there's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, they need something else to punch up the volume. I needed more than just these colors. And my initial reaction was that I needed something sunny and bright. Like when you look back here at the Flea sweater, even though this yellow is kind of a polarizing yellow, some people love it, some people really don't like it. It is there and it kind of balances this out as much as the dark color balances it out. It's needed to really tip or to balance the scales, if you will. And I felt like this needed that as well. I wanted something kind of mustardy, something like goldenrod mustard color. So I'm going to lower it down. I did that. I went and I picked up, now this color, this goldenrod color that you see right here, I wasn't able to find a color like that in the same yarn that I have for the rest of the blanket, but I knew that Lion Brand had a Thick and Quick in a color similar to that. So this is Lion Brand Thick and Quick. It's 80% acrylic, 20% wool, and it's just a super bulky yarn. Very, very, this stuff is all over the place, right? It's ubiquitous in the fiber arts community of makers, in big box stores, whatever. It's a fantastic, super bulky yarn if you want it for blankets or if you're just starting out. It's just a really nice yarn. So I picked that up to add that warm, sunny color that I felt like this blanket was going to need. And you guys, let's just, whoa, my tea, that was dangerous. Okay. Look at what I have done. Oh, the back is beautiful as well. Look at this. What? Hello, holy blanket bingo, Batman, whatever that means. But look at this. How gorgeous is this blanket so far? I have already completed the first colorwork section. I'm moving on to the middle striping section, and this thing is working up like nobody's business. I started this. When did I start this? When did I first start this? I just got an email that said that my boys are going to be earning their very first black stripe in Taekwondo in their next class. That is amazing, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. I started this like 5 days ago. Guys, 5 days ago, and there's been like a day or two in there where I haven't worked much on it. 5 days ago. This is half of a blanket almost, and it's amazing, and it's so enjoyable to knit. Now, I talked about this. Was it on an episode here? No, I think I was talking about this on just the Patreon update video. So not the window shopping video, but the actual update video on Patreon. If you're interested and you'd like to help support the channel, head over to the Wool Needles Hands Patreon. Lots of additional content over there, and you can see if it's for you. But I did talk about this on the update video over there, and I mentioned how this colorwork section, it's beautiful, was so much fun to knit. Because even though it's 2 colors, you're only carrying 1 color yarn with you the entire row. You don't have 2 colors in your hands like you would with stranded colorwork. It was a concept I'd never heard about before. What is this? Where you just slip the alternate color. So like, for example, we have a green and we have a taupe. I might have to be doing I go 1 row where I knit the greens and I slip the taupe. I don't carry the taupe with me because I'm just going to be slipping the taupe. And then I do another row where I knit the taupe and slip the green. I had never done this before, and it was so incredibly enjoyable to do. It just felt like I don't know. It's like you're just working at this really great rhythm and you're watching this color work come together. It has a look about it that looks woven. Because you're slipping stitches in here, you have some elongated stitches happening that give this kind of like a hand woven look, like loom woven, as opposed to stranded color work. And I think it's so cool. So I talked about this on my Patreon update video, and some people were saying in the comments right below the video, almost immediately, like, I love mosaic knitting. It's so fun. I've never seen a mosaic knit blanket like that, but it makes a lot of sense now because you won't have the really long floats in the back, all of this stuff. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I've heard of mosaic knitting before. I've never done it. I know it's all the rage, or at least it was last year. It was like all the rage. Everything was mosaic knit. And like all of me, like Andrea Mowry had a whole, like, she was going through like a mosaic knitting moment. Okay. But I didn't know what it was. And everybody said it was fun and easy. If this is that, which I think it is, it's fantastic. I love it. I mean, look at the back of this blanket. Look at that. Look at this. If this were stranded color work and I were holding both strands of yarn in each row, it would be so much more dense. There would be a lot more floats going on back here. It would seem it wouldn't look as finished on the back. This looks different, but it has a finished look about it. And that's because you're not carrying a lot of floats and the fabric is not as dense as it would be if I was carrying 2 strands of yarn along the back. So this blanket and its gorgeous motif, it doesn't say, I don't think it says mosaic knitting on the Ravelry page for this. If I go down to like categories, yeah, it does not say mosaic knitting. No, it does. It does. Never mind. It does. I didn't notice it. And I just didn't know that that's what that was. And now I'm crazy about it. And that's why I don't know if that's why it's worked up so fast. It's probably because the yarn is enormous, but goodness gracious. How pretty is this? How pretty is this? So this is my Mexican blanket by Alexandra Tavel. I am obsessed. I'm working on the middle section right now. It's going to go on the back of our couch. Our air is going to be coming on, our air conditioner. I'm going to close this door because sometimes when it pops on, it's a little noisy. It's just me and the old pepper girl today. So I had the door open, but okay. So yeah, so I love this. Obsessed. Oh, this is something I wanted to mention to you guys. So you can see that there's a border at the bottom, this garter stitch border at the bottom, but there's no border at the side. And you can see how it curls in. It kind of has this natural tendency to curl in, right? Like stockinette stitch usually does. And I'll also tell you something that happens here. And I don't know if this was considered and this is why the construction is the way it is, but this border wants to fold in like this. This is what it wants to do. It wants to go like this. And that's annoying. But it's only annoying because it is what it is. But what I do know is that once you're finished knitting the blanket, you're going to pick up stitches along this edge in order to add an additional border to this side. And when you do that, you'll be picking up stitches all the way down to the corner here. And that border that you pick up along this edge is going to make it so this no longer flaps forward. It kind of reinforces everything. It keeps this rolling from happening. It straightens everything out. This color work section also kind of has a little bit more of like it comes in a little bit because it's just ever so slightly tighter than this section down here, which I know I could have accommodated with going up a needle size, but I didn't, so whatever. The border will help to kind of even all of that out. And like I said, it'll keep this from flipping in like that. So it's very thoughtful and I'm really excited to have this finished. So Mexican blanket by Alexandra Tavel, absolutely obsessed. I don't want to talk about the ends that I'm going to have to weave in because I'm just trying to push that out of my mind right now. So just don't go there. We actually are going to go there later in the video, but just not right now, okay? It's not the time. So I'm going to put this back in here with all the pretty yarns. And I love it. I'm crazy about it. I don't even know what to tell you. It's knitting up so fast. I'm going to have a really cozy Southwest-inspired blanket before it's even cold enough outside to use it. Because it's freaking hot outside still, and it's September. Earth. Okay. I'm ready to move on to the next project that has been sitting here the whole time. I don't have a lot to talk about with this because I've made one milestone, or I've surpassed one milestone, and then we're going to just kind of move on. But this is my Flea sweater by Anna and Heidi Pickles. It is on Gladys right now. Gladys, my dress form. I've kind of abandoned the pattern a little bit, only because I kind of know what I'm doing at this point. So a raglan sweater, like a single stitch, well, there's 2 stitches in the raglan. No, there's 1. It's a single stitch raglan sweater. Like a raglan sweater is a raglan sweater is a raglan sweater. When you know how to work one, it kind of just puts itself together. It's like once you start knitting socks, one sock is a sock is a sock for the most part. When you have your sock knitting formula, you kind of just use that, unless of course it's a particular pattern. So right now I'm just kind of working, my own little raglan formula, I guess. Again, I don't really want to talk about the ends yet. It's gonna be a thing. So yeah, here I am. I have separated for sleeves. I have not tried it on since I added my underarm stitches here, but I think it's gonna fit beautifully. I would do it for you now. Do I do it? Ugh. I don't feel like I have enough going on under the arm to do that right now. I'm going to save it for the next episode. I'm not going to put it on right now. I want to have a little bit more going on under the arm here before I try it on. But this is my new saga. My new saga, my Flea sweater saga. I am in my color era. I'm really just into color right now. I even went shopping the other day. It's so hot.
It must be the light.
But I even went shopping the other day and I was like I was gravitating towards color, and color of particular items I don't usually purchase with color. Like pants, for example. I'm wearing these like chestnut colored, like denim wide leg pants right now. And this is a neutral color, right? You can wear this with everything, but it's, it's more color than I go for. And, I don't know. That's not a good example, but I'm kind of into color. I bought these Birkenstocks the other day. Yeah, I gotta show you because they're colorful. Hold on. It's just us today, guys. Okay, listen. Sorry, this is different. I gotta share it with you, but I bought these Birkenstocks the other day. When I buy Birkenstocks, I buy, I don't say it like I buy Birkenstocks all the time. You don't, because they're expensive. But when I have purchased Birkenstocks in the past, they're basic leather, okay? The brown leather or black, nothing fancy. Guys, these are green, olive green, and they are fur-lined. These are wintertime Birkenstocks. Put some socks on with these babies, and you'll be shunning people left and right. I'm kidding. But how awesome are these? I got these at Nordstrom Rack, for those of you that are in the States or have a Nordstrom Rack near you. Yeah. Love them. Okay, sorry. Next, moving on. I want to answer some questions that have come up in the last couple of episodes on the podcast. Now, one thing, I'm looking at my computer here because this is where I have all of my notes for today's episode. If you would like to see what I'm looking at here, where it has my pictures, my links, little notes that I write to remind myself things to mention here, if you would like to see these and have access to these, please head over to Patreon. These are available to all over on Patreon. If you are a paid member, these are available to you. Or if you are a free member who is just there for the occasional thing that I drop like this is available to you. So definitely head over there if you would like to have access to all of this information in one place. But that's what I'm looking at right now because I want to answer some questions. Now, I do this from time to time when I feel like there have been a lot of really good questions asked on episodes or, below episodes of podcasts that I would like to maybe elaborate on a little bit more. And this is that. So we're going to pop up this first question here. This was asked by Loveliest Wild, and this was 6 days ago. Do you or anyone have any tips on good color work patterns for a first color work attempt? Ideally super clear and with tips on yarn management. I absolutely love how Scandi color work patterns look, but I'm a bit intimidated by them. Scandi referring to Scandinavian color work patterns. Okay, this question was asked, and also this question was asked by Mendy Viola. And she says, loving all the color work patterns. Unfortunately, I've not attempted any color work yet. Do you have a pattern that you would recommend for a first color work project? So they're both kind of a similar question. And I do absolutely have a pattern for you. This is the pattern that I used for my first color work pattern. It is called Hoopla. and it's a hat pattern by Diana Walla. And I am actually going to pop over to my screen right now. I'm going to record my screen for you guys, and we're going to go on this journey together. So just hang tight, because I feel like this is helpful. So we are here on the pattern for the hoopla hat. Again, this was the first, color work pattern that I tackled when I first started doing color work, and I loved it. I decided to knit this hat after watching one of her podcasts. So Diana Walla is on YouTube. Okay, do you see this video right here? Let's talk about Norwegian wool. This was the video I watched several years ago. I would say it was roughly 5-6 years ago because it was relatively new when I watched it. And this was all about Norwegian wool. I was really into the idea of knitting with Norwegian wool, and this video inspired me. I love this video. It also gave me a lot of really interesting insight about knitting color work and Norwegian, I don't know, she talks about like Norwegian style knitting, but just the background of Norwegian knitting. And she was really good at explaining those things. I will link to this video. In fact, I'm going to add it to my Milla note right now so that I don't forget. But this is a really great one to watch as an introduction to Diana Walla. But also if you want to kind of know a little bit more about color work knitting, she talks a little bit about color dominance, which is something that's really important when it comes to color knitting, to make sure that those contrasting colors are coming forward over the top of the background colors. Okay, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but this is a really great one to watch. Now, that was how I learned about color dominance, and that was what introduced me to the hoopla hat, which is what you can see here, which was also featured in an issue of Pom Pom Quarterly. I love this hat. It's a beautiful color work motif. It's relatively simple to work, 2 colors only, and this includes what's called a Latvian braid. You can see that right here. That's that braided piece right here. Believe it or not, it's not as difficult as it looks. And when you see it come together, it is so satisfying. I did this in my first color work project. You can totally do it if you're a relatively experienced knitter. And I don't mean that like you have to be a well-seasoned knitter, just, you know, an adventurous beginner, somebody who's ready to take on new techniques. You can totally do it. This is such a fun hat. It's a gorgeous hat. I want to knit another one. The one that I knit, and if I go back, the one that I knit did not have great contrast. You can see it right here. Not a lot of great contrast there. The colors were just, yeah, that's no good. But it worked up really well, and it's really such a beautiful hat. So if I had to offer a suggestion on a great first hat or a great first project for somebody wanting to knit color work, it would definitely be the hoopla hat by Diana Walla. It is a $5 pattern, but it comes with some really great resources to talk about color dominance. It's just kind of a full package. And then watch that video that I link in the Milla note, Let's Talk About Norwegian Wool, because it's what inspired me to knit color work. And I think it would do the same for you. So to answer that question, that would be my answer, the hoopla hat by Diana Walla. And then, you know, her discussion on Norwegian wool. It will inspire you, I promise. Okay, this next question is a simple one, and it is that an old-fashioned pencil sharpener on your table? This is what people are referring to. Some people have no idea what this is. This is a pencil sharpener. In terms of whether it is an old-fashioned pencil sharpener, I don't know. It kind of looks similar to old pencil sharpeners that I remember my teachers having in elementary school, but I purchased this a couple of years ago. It is by the Custom Company, and it is a fantastic pencil sharpener. It has this little dial that helps you determine what level of sharpness. You turn it this way and it makes it much more pointy and sharp, this way and it's much less sharp. It's really great for artists, sketchers, people like that do a lot of pencil sketching. And then it has these 2 little guys back here. When you stick the pencil in, you open these and then you let them go and it holds on to the pencil really tightly and you sharpen it. And it has its little part down here for collecting all the shavings. My favorite pencil sharpener ever. Not only that, it affixes, it like attaches to the table and it just looks super retro and awesome. There, Custom. It's a little on the pricey side. Well, I mean, $23 for a really nice pencil sharpener, I guess isn't that bad. But yeah, that's it. You can get it in black. You can get it in red. So yeah, that's a pencil sharpener and I love it. It's my co-host. I elbow it from time to time, but it's not going anywhere because I like the way it looks in the videos. Okay, another question came up and it's from Muggle Folk. And it says, question, how do you change colors each round without making a big gap at the seam? I love knitting stripes in the round, but it always makes this gap each new row on the back if knitting top down and in the round. And yes, this is true. So when you're knitting, excuse me, when you're knitting stripes in like this, and every round you have to change color or there's frequent color changes. Now, I know helical knitting is a thing, and if you want to get into helical knitting, that might be an option. You can Google or do a YouTube search for helical knitting, like a helix. I've never done that before, but I know people will suggest that, and for good reason. In order to avoid this gap that happens, and the reason it happens is because you're adding a new yarn every time you change your row, which is going to make it so that they just don't stay together. They just don't come together all that well, is that on the first stitch of the new row where you're adding a new color, I hold the old color and the new color together for the first stitch at least, maybe for the first 2 stitches, and it causes it to kind of close that gap from where you're adding a new ball and where you're ending an old ball. So just for the first couple of stitches, hold the new and the old together, and then knit your first 2 stitches and then carry on with just your new yarn. And it just kind of closes things up. And you really don't notice that, color variation. You're not going to notice it. It's just, you're not going to notice it. Just make sure you don't knit those as 2 separate stitches when you come back to them. Knit them together as one. But that's kind of how I tackle that problem. Okay, there was another question. I thought you might talk about ends to weave in. It looks like a lot of weaving and all in the same spot. Do you have thoughts on this? Love the vibe. And she's referring to the ends on my Flea sweater, and y'all, it's bad. Okay, like there are so many ends that I'm going to have to weave in on this sucker. Just look, just feast your eyes on that. It's really bad. I had no plan going into this on what I was going to do other than just like, yeah, that's just my reality, is I've got to weave in all of those ends. And what do I usually do? I just weave them in. Okay. I knot them in a square knot to hold them in place. And then I weave the ends in. How you do. I don't know. Some people have asked, like, can you do a video where you show how you weave in your ends? And I could, but I don't think I have some kind of revolutionary way that I do it. I just kind of snake the ends around like this. And then that's that. I'm going to have the same thing over here. Lots of ends to weave in. I did a little digging because I know there's got to be somebody out there who has some kind of revolutionary way to do this. And you know who usually does is Very Pink Knits. And so I found a video on Very Pink Knits website that you can see here. And it is weaving ends as you go. This is, I'm sure there are many of you who are like, oh, I do this all the time. Yep, I'm sure. But I watched this, and this is something I will be doing from here on out with both my Mexican blanket and my Flea sweater because it's pretty amazing. So definitely check this out. I'll link to it in my notes, but it is Knitting Help Weaving Ends as you go. That's my plan moving forward. Otherwise, yeah, it's just, I know I have a lot of ends to weave in, and it's just a reality that I have to face. What can you do about it? It can be atrocious, but it is what it is. Well, there you have it, folks. Those are some questions I wanted to answer. I'm going to try and do that in my knitting podcast episodes if I feel like there's some pretty good questions. There's always great questions, so check the comment sections of the videos. But I like to do that and do some digging and find some fun things to share with you that are, brought on by questions that you guys leave me in the comment section. So thank you for leaving me questions. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you found this inspiring. I was excited to share these projects with you guys today, and I can't wait to share continued progress on the next episode. At this point, you may have realized that my upload schedule is not on the same days that it has been in the past. And that is just because I'm feeling out which days really work best for our family right now. Our boys just started a Taekwondo program, which has been so great. I know a lot of you know that my boys were doing hockey for a while. It became something that wasn't right for our family for lots of different reasons. And we got them into Taekwondo, and we are so excited about it. They love it. They have taken to it, and it's exciting. It's 2 days a week. And so because of these kinds of things that change, I want to make sure that my 2 day a week upload schedule lands on days that work for the things that we have going on. So right now I'm in the middle of kind of figuring that out. So you'll notice that some videos get uploaded on different days than usual, but there will always be 2 per week. So just bear that in mind, but it might pop in on different days. So just keep your eyes out. Definitely click the bell icon next to the videos, because then you'll be notified when I upload new videos and you can be there early to watch the new videos when they go live. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope you are having a great week, and I can't wait to see you on our next episode, which will be later this week. Until then, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.